What is the value of a human life? I don't know, but the value of your life is about 8 BMATs. 12 if you kill like one guy before dying, and 100 if you actually know how to run logic. The core gimmick for Foxhole is that most tools, weapons, ammo, structures, and vehicles are all produced by players at player-run facilities. Even the spawn points at locations are all produced somewhere using materials that are processed from raw resources. Because of this, Foxhole can be an entirely different game for different people, so much so it's kinda hard to cover all of it at once. But by now I've put 100 hours into the game and I've done a little bit of most things, but not everything. Someone could dedicate 8 hours a day to Foxhole and never really see the front lines, just mostly building stuff or driving trucks around. But I was a new solo player, which meant I was on the front line using whatever a logic player just dropped off, which very often ended up not being enough. I started early, skulking around the Singing Serpents at night in the Drowned Vale, picking off unsuspecting collies and partnering up with a mute rando to steal an MG that was left out. Activity here was low, but it was a good opportunity to see what I could and couldn't get away with. But in the coming days, the collies would begin to gather here and I would get to see my first real fight. The fight was a push and pull between the Singing Serpents and the Salt Caps town. Both sides came and pushed, moving from trench to trench while medics picked up wounded soldiers. The fight was actually fairly intense. I remember there were several times where I had almost reached the relic base only to be pushed back again. Until finally a couple of what I think are called spadas showed up, and then we got pushed all the way back to Salt Caps, where a dozen or more joined in the defense of that town, which lasted for hours. And in this part of the fight, I even got to use the Kromari mortars myself, and while I couldn't exactly see what I was firing at when I was shooting, if I was quick enough with my binoculars, I could see like the little areas I was shooting at if the collies had backed off from them, so that was cool. Tanks came, tanks went from both sides. It was a pretty fun battle, but I ended up leaving before it ended, only to find tomorrow morning, checking the Foxhole stats website, that we had lost it, so that wasn't cool. So that was like a spit in my face, but I think that's the only actual gripe I have with Foxholes, things like that. And it's also almost the entire loop of Foxhole because battles last so long. But that is like the core of Foxhole. It is hard to meaningfully contribute to something unless you treat it like a second job, which can be fun when things work out, but during this war, things overall were not working out for the Wardens. A day or two later, I tried to help some other guys poke around enemy defenses in Marben Hollow, which promptly led to the collies floating 3 ships under the bridge at checkpoint Bua to shoot at us, which felt a little unnecessary. Perhaps you might even call it disproportional. Being on the losing side of a war is certainly an experience. Fortunately, the fight further up the road at Osterwall was much more balanced, but only because it was literally uphill for the collies. The only reason it was ever able to fall at all was because we finally ran out of shirts after like a solid day of fighting. And soon after, the war finally ended. Yeah, we got absolutely shelved by the time I joined, and my experience was extremely mixed because of that. I enjoyed the high intensity fighting, and I know losing is part of the experience as much as winning is, but the winning part was currently missing. So I've been playing primarily, actually almost exclusively on the Charlie server, right? It's like Alpha, which is the main server, except for people who are either entirely new, casual, or they got like 40-year-old gamer brain fog and they mostly do Logi and nothing else. From what I can tell, or what I got an inkling of, is that Alpha server plays Foxhole more like it's Rust. And personally, I will never touch Rust. It's up there with like League of Legends in terms of games I wouldn't touch with a fucking like 20-foot pole. But for now, I'll just hang out with the Brain Fog Halo 3 vets. Now, the artillery. I originally touched Foxhole because according to about 1,000 comments on a previous video, Foxhole is the best game to do artillery in, and I decided to see for myself. I did get to use it a couple times in a few different ways with other new players, and while it was fun and interesting, it wasn't what I was originally looking for. There are a lot of mechanics that I really like, especially how wind direction affects the shells and how the dispersion increases with range. It works to keep artillery realistic and balanced, and half the battle is introducing a new realistic mechanic without rooting your little war game and making it boring. It actually made it a little bit better. And it was a headache to figure out for the first time with other new people, but it was worth it in the end. However, there's still a couple things that bothered me. For one, in my original video, I complained that the distance of artillery guns in video games is often nerfed because of map size and balancing, which is fair, but it still bothers me that, in Foxhole, most artillery guns don't shoot beyond a measly 350 meters, which is even a quarter of a single hex. The only exception to this is the Storm Cannon. It's a 300mm behemoth that can shoot even into other hexes with a range of like 1,000 meters. It's also so expensive to use and maintain, I don't expect to see it in Charlie server anyways. Foxhole has a lot of strengths, and while the artillery is still sick, it also still falls short of what I was originally talking about. I'm still new to Foxhole, but even I can tell artillery is already very powerful, and making it any stronger would invalidate many other playstyles even more. But with the addition of airplanes, maybe they'll serve as an effective counter to artillery crews. Probably not to the point where increasing artillery range makes sense, but who knows. On a smaller note, While I do understand the advantages of having Foxhole be a sort of isometric game, it does pull the player out of the chaos of being shelled or under heavy fire. But Foxhole's strength is teamwork, and having a bird's eye view of everyone fighting is something most other games can't achieve. Next war, I took a step away from frontline fighting and picked up doing some Logi myself. I'm gonna be honest, unless you're doing frontline Logi, it's just a 9 to 5. Doing Logi anywhere that isn't the frontline is basically just Euro Truck Simulator. Frontline Logi is sometimes like that one episode of Mandalorian with like Bill Burr. Especially at night, it'll be all nice and quiet, then all of a sudden you get ambushed by dudes with like sticky grenades or SMGs. And dodging them or even getting out to kill them can be quite fun. I like that. It's a good part of the game. Now, being a partisan, even more fun. I love stealing, I love breaking stuff, I really enjoy shooting people in the back. I like slinking around at night in bushes and going places I'm not supposed to be. I don't even care if I actually really accomplish anything, it's more about the thrill of being a nuisance. In that same second war, I even got the opportunity to retake Osterwald, which felt like this cool moment of redemption from the last war. I'm burned this wall! But we lost a day later, so that was pretty short-lived. And it's rough being a Charlie Warden because you look over at Able server and they're always doing better. So yeah, come the air update, I probably will go over to Able server for a all better experience, hopefully. If I have a good time in the air update, maybe I'll make a second Foxhole video just about the air update. But this is still not like it's not like a Foxhole channel per se, but we'll see what happens, you know. And until the next video, I'll be learning the rest of the game, hopefully, or at least more of it. And the next one should be out sooner, now that I'm like back from a break. No more 2-month gaps for like 5-minute videos. Alright, see y'all later.